Have you ever wondered what makes a legend like Tom Brady not just a great athlete, but a truly extraordinary human being? For over 2 decades, Brady has been synonymous with excellence. A quarterback who defied every odd, shattered every record, and led teams like the New England Patriots and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to Super Bowl glory. But today, we're not talking about touchdowns or championships. We're talking about something far deeper. Something that may forever change the way you see him. It all began when Tom Brady received a phone call that shook him to his core. His first ever football coach, the man who introduced him to the game, taught him resilience and believed in him long before anyone else did, was now living on the streets, alone and forgotten. This wasn't just any coach. This was the man who had stayed late after practice to help a lanky, uncertain kid perfect his throw. The man who told young Tom, "You've got something special." What Tom did next wasn't about fame, fortune, or headlines. It was about gratitude, loyalty, and the kind of quiet integrity that defines a person when no one's watching. In this video, we'll take you on an emotional journey through this remarkable story, from Brady's early days in San Mateo to the dizzying heights of Gillette Stadium and Raymond James Stadium, and finally, to a street corner where an unexpected reunion unfolded in a way that shocked the world. Stay with us until the end, because what you're about to hear may change how you see Tom Brady forever. This is not just the story of a sports icon, but of a man who never forgot where he came from, and proved that true greatness is measured not only by rings and trophies, but by compassion and humanity. Before the Super Bowls, before the MVPs, before the GOAT debates, there was a young boy in San Mateo, California, named Tom Brady. And there was one man who first saw something extraordinary in that boy, Coach Bill Keller. In the late 1980s at Junipero Serra High School, Keller wasn't just a coach. He was a mentor, a father figure, and perhaps most importantly, the first adult to tell Tom that he could be something great. At the time, Tom Brady wasn't the athletic prodigy you might imagine. He was lanky, slow-footed, and often overlooked. Other kids excelled in sports with natural talent and speed, while Tom sat on the bench waiting for his chance. But Coach Keller saw what no one else did, not just potential, but heart. He stayed after practices to work on Tom's mechanics, helping him refine his awkward throw and build confidence in the pocket. It was under Keller's guidance that Tom first learned the power of discipline. Those long, quiet hours on the practice field, with just the sound of the ball hitting the receiver's gloves, shaped him. Keller would say, "Talent's what you're born with, Tommy, but greatness, that's what you earn." It was a mantra that stuck with Brady for life. Years later, when Tom led the New England Patriots to their first Super Bowl victory at the now iconic Gillette Stadium, he would tell reporters about Coach Keller, giving him credit for laying the foundation. Few knew Keller's name, but for Tom, he was indispensable. But life is unpredictable. As Brady's star rose, Keller's life took a different turn. After retiring from coaching, he faced financial hardship, health issues, and the slow erosion of his social ties. Eventually, he lost his home. Decades had passed since their last conversation, yet the lessons Keller imparted remained etched in Brady's mind. And when Tom heard the news, that the very man who had helped him find his way was now living on the streets, he was devastated. He knew he had to act. It was a quiet evening at Tom Brady's Tampa Bay home, just months after his historic Super Bowl win with the Buccaneers at Raymond James Stadium. Sitting on the patio overlooking the Florida coast, he was scrolling through messages when one caught his eye. It was from an old high school teammate he hadn't spoken to in years. "Tom, I don't know if you've heard, but Coach Keller's in bad shape. He's homeless living in downtown San Mateo." The words hit Tom like a punch to the chest. He hadn't seen Keller in decades, but the memories came rushing back. Those early mornings running drills, the encouragement when everyone else doubted him, the simple belief that he could be something more. Tom immediately picked up the phone and called the only contact he had left from those days, another former teammate who now worked in San Mateo's local government. "Is it true?" Tom asked, his voice tight with emotion. "Yeah, Tom. He's been on and off the streets for a while now. Lost everything after his wife passed, just couldn't recover." For a man who had conquered everything in football, from record-breaking playoff runs at Gillette Stadium to improbable comebacks that cemented his status as the greatest of all time, this was something Tom couldn't simply outplay or outstrategize. It was raw, human, painful. He hung up the phone and sat in silence, staring out at the water. For all the accolades and achievements, 7 Super Bowl rings, countless MVP awards, this was the man who had first believed in him, now abandoned by the very world he had once given so much to. Tom thought about all the times Keller had gone out of his way for him, driving him home after practice, spending weekends reviewing game tape, pushing him to believe in himself even when others dismissed him. And now, Keller had no one. Brady knew he had to act, but how? Could he just show up on the streets of San Mateo? Would Keller even recognize him after all these years? He picked up the phone again, this time calling his personal assistant. "Find him," Tom said firmly. "Whatever it takes." And with that, a journey began. Not one measured in yards or touchdowns, but in something far more profound: gratitude, redemption, and the quiet power of showing up when it matters most. As Tom Brady's team mobilized to locate Coach Keller, Tom found himself reflecting on the long road he had traveled, from the modest practice fields of Junipero Serra High School to the roaring crowds of Gillette Stadium, where he cemented his legacy with 6 Super Bowl titles. Those New England winters, the snow falling on the turf as he led yet another game-winning drive, seemed so far removed from the dusty streets of his hometown. But as he sat in his Tampa Bay home, memories flooded back. He remembered his first varsity game, the nerves, the excitement, and Keller's reassuring voice in the huddle. "Just play your game, Tommy." It was those early words of encouragement that laid the mental foundation he would later draw upon in Super Bowl moments, whether against the St. Louis Rams in his first title run or the epic comeback against the Atlanta Falcons in Super Bowl LI. Tom knew all too well how life could change in an instant. One play, one decision, could alter everything. That's what made this situation so unsettling. How had the man who once seemed so steady, so strong, fallen through the cracks of society? His assistant had been working tirelessly, contacting shelters, hospitals, and even the local police department in San Mateo. Days turned into weeks with no solid lead. Frustration set in, but Tom refused to give up. "He never gave up on me," Tom told a close friend during one of their conversations, "so how could I give up on him now?" In the meantime, Tom continued to balance his professional obligations, training with the Buccaneers, participating in charity events, and preparing for the next NFL season. But his mind was never far from Keller. He thought of all the lessons Coach had taught him, many of which had nothing to do with football: humility, perseverance, and the importance of lifting others up. Those values had guided Tom throughout his life, even as he left New England and embraced a new chapter in Tampa Bay. And now, those same values compelled him to keep searching, knowing that somewhere out there his first mentor was waiting, whether he realized it or not. After weeks of searching, Tom's assistant finally called with a lead. "We found him," she said softly. "He's at a shelter just outside of downtown San Mateo." Without hesitation, Tom arranged a private visit. No media, no entourage, just himself. He flew quietly from Tampa Bay to California, determined to see the man who had shaped so much of his life. Walking through the streets of his old hometown, Tom was struck by how little, and yet how much had changed. The familiar high school field was still there, though the paint on the bleachers had faded. The corner store where he used to grab sodas with his teammates was now a coffee shop. But what hadn't changed was the sense of home and the memories etched into every sidewalk crack. When he arrived at the shelter, he took a deep breath before stepping inside. Sitting near the window, hunched over a cup of coffee, was a man with graying hair, a weathered face, and eyes that had seen far too much hardship. It was Coach Keller. For a moment, Tom hesitated. Would Keller recognize him? Would he want to see him? But as he approached, Keller looked up. His eyes widened, disbelief and recognition colliding all at once. "Tommy?" he whispered, his voice cracking. Tom sat down across from him, smiling warmly. "Hey, Coach." There was silence, thick with emotion. before Keller chuckled softly. "Didn't think you'd remember an old man like me." Tom swallowed hard, fighting back tears. How could I forget the man who made me who I am? For hours, they sat and talked about football, life, loss, and resilience. Tom listened intently as Keller recounted the challenges he'd faced after retirement, the loneliness, and the misfortunes that led him here. And as the conversation drew on, Tom made a decision that would soon capture the world's attention, though at that moment, it was just one man helping another. After their emotional reunion at the shelter, Tom knew that a simple visit wasn't enough. Coach Keller deserved more than a handshake and a few kind words. He deserved dignity, security, and the same unwavering support that he had once given to a young, unsure quarterback decades ago. Tom quietly arranged for Keller to be moved into a comfortable assisted living facility in San Mateo. He made sure it was close to parks and familiar landmarks so that Keller could feel at home. But even then, Tom didn't stop. He covered all the expenses anonymously, making sure that Keller never knew the full extent of his involvement. For Tom, this wasn't about publicity. He didn't call the press or post about it on social media. In fact, most of the world would never have known about this act of compassion had it not been for a shelter volunteer who, months later, shared the story online, marveling at how a man like Tom Brady would do something like this, quietly, just because he cared. But for Tom, it was never a question. This was the man who taught him how to stay calm in the pocket when the pressure was on. The man who believed in him when no one else did. The man who told him, "Tommy, your character off the field matters more than your stats on it." That advice had stayed with Tom his entire career, through the championships at Gillette Stadium, the parade celebrations through the streets of Boston, and his later triumphs with the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. Now it guided him once again. Tom made it a point to visit Keller regularly, sometimes flying in after games, other times calling just to check in. They reminisced about the old days, about plays that went wrong, jokes shared in the locker room, and the dreams that back then seemed so distant, but had somehow come true. Keller's health improved steadily with proper care, but more than that, his spirit was lifted by the knowledge that he wasn't forgotten. He told the staff at the facility, "Tommy, he didn't just save my life. He reminded me that I mattered." And that, more than any ring or trophy, was one of Tom Brady's proudest accomplishments. For months, Tom Brady's acts of kindness remained a private matter, known only to a handful of people. But one day, a simple social media post changed everything. A volunteer at the shelter, unaware of Tom's desire for anonymity, shared a heartfelt message online. Witness something incredible today. Tom Brady quietly helping out his old coach who'd fallen on hard times. No cameras, no headlines, just compassion. The post went viral within hours. Sports networks picked up the story. Headlines blazed across screens. Tom Brady's secret act of kindness, goat off the field too. Fans around the world were moved, not just by the fact that Tom had helped, but by how he had done it, with humility and without any expectation of praise. When asked about it in a rare interview, Tom downplayed the act. "It's not about me," he said simply. "It's about remembering where you come from, about honoring the people who help shape you. Coach Keller did that for me." The story resonated deeply, especially with those familiar with Tom's relentless pursuit of excellence. From his days battling for a spot as a backup at the University of Michigan to his rise with the Patriots, Brady had always been known for his competitive fire. But now, the world saw something else, a man who, despite all his success, never forgot the foundational relationships that shaped his character. Across New England and Tampa Bay, fans celebrated not just their quarterback, but the human being behind the jersey. Local sports radio stations filled with calls from listeners, many moved to tears, reflecting on the people in their own lives who had quietly shaped them. For Tom, the attention was never the point. But he hoped that, if nothing else, the story might inspire others to reach out, to make a call, lend a hand, offer thanks to someone who once believed in them. Because sometimes, the most heroic acts happen far from the stadium lights. As the story continued to circulate, many began to see Tom Brady in a new light. not just as the quarterback who led the Patriots to glory at Gillette Stadium or who defied expectations by winning another Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, but as a man whose true legacy extended far beyond the football field. Coach Keller, now living comfortably and surrounded by people who cared, often spoke about Tom to the staff at his new home. "He always had heart," he'd say with pride. "Even as a kid, I knew he'd be something special, but it's the man he's become that truly amazes me." For Tom, this chapter of his life reaffirmed something he'd always believed, that success isn't just measured in records or rings, but in the relationships we nurture and the lives we touch. And as he looked ahead to the future, whether more seasons in the NFL, new business ventures, or time with his family, Tom carried with him the quiet satisfaction of having made a difference where it mattered most. Because in the end, greatness isn't just about what you achieve, it's about who you remember along the way. Tom Brady's story has always been one of resilience, determination, and excellence. But this chapter, one that unfolded far from the roaring stadiums and championship parades, reveals something even more profound: the quiet strength of gratitude and the enduring power of human connection. From a high school football field in San Mateo to the grandeur of Gillette Stadium and the triumphs in Tampa Bay, Tom never lost sight of the people who shaped his journey. Coach Keller wasn't just a figure from his past. He was a reminder of the values that carried Tom through every fourth-quarter comeback and every off-season setback. This story isn't just about a legendary quarterback helping an old coach in need. It's about remembering our roots, honoring those who believed in us, and understanding that true greatness is measured not just by our accomplishments, but by our compassion. So, what do you think was Tom Brady's most defining moment? Was it a game-winning drive, or a simple act of kindness carried out away from the cameras? If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who could use a little inspiration today. And don't miss our next video, where we'll explore another incredible story that proves how resilience can change everything.